Hello. Welcome to the Total Truth Show, episode 40. My name is Altuney from the Gold Coast in Australia.
And my name is Ken Kleinberg, coming to you from the USA in San Diego County, California.
And I'm Annie Bourke from Brisbane in Australia.
And we'll be right back after this short introduction, chatting about the truth about animal intelligence.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show, hosted by myself, Ken Kleinberg from San Diego County, California.
And I'm Aldwyn, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
And our goal here on this show is to help you to break away from the mainstream media propaganda and lies, the disinformation and misinformation that's out there in the mainstream, and really help you to start questioning everything and start doing the research for yourself. We want to punch through all of that disinformation and misinformation. Our goal here is to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass and then pave the way for a new awakened civilization. And we would love for you to come along for the ride. Don't take our word for it. The things that we share here on the show, that goes for our guests too. Start doing the research for yourself. Start going and asking the questions for yourself. Get out there and really find the real truth behind things. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Yes, welcome. I'm very excited about this show. Annie is an absolute legend. And of course, my co-host, Ken. Great to see you here today, Ken. And now Annie, for those who haven't heard of Annie, she's absolutely extraordinary. A little bit about this phenomenal woman before we chat about animal intelligence today. Now, she is an international best-selling author, an international animal communicator, an animal medium, and a podcast host. She has conversations with animals living and in spirit to get answers for their human parents' questions and to provide peace of mind. She mentors animal parents also to master telepathic animal communication. Animals are her passion, and her mission is to raise global awareness of the importance of animals. She wants everyone to understand that animals understand everything that we say and are with us for a reason. And she also loves deepening relationships between animals and their humans through better understanding each other. Welcome, Annie.
Thank you, Aldwyn, and thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
Great to have you here. And now, Annie, actually, we came across each other. She joined my Mass Media Mastery program. Actually, she's one of our members, and she is extraordinary. I'm blown away. I must say, we actually did an interview on Media Queen TV 3 years ago where my cat Tiger sat on my lap the whole way through the show. Now, out of the 1,000 or so interviews I've done online and all of the thousands of interviews I did before that, I've never had my cat ever sit on my lap calmly the whole way through the show. And I will actually share that link. It was called How to Cosmically Connect with Your Animals on that show. It's up on YouTube and Facebook. I'll share the link in comments in just a sec. And then when Tiger passed away, which was only actually a few weeks ago, Tiger was almost 16. He passed away and I was an absolute mess. And I called Annie. It was like my SOS line. I called Annie and I said, Tiger's passed. And I felt so bad because I'd been traveling and I felt so guilty that I'd been away. Even though I had people looking after Tiger, I felt a lot of guilt over the fact that Tiger got so weak and particularly in the last month or so of his life that he started to sort of it's not eat properly and etc. And Annie, with a conversation I had with Annie, I was able to bring a lot of peace to this situation. And Annie, I'd just love you to share here for those who also have felt any guilt whatsoever at any point over what they have or haven't done with their animals, with their pets. What do you say to these people?
Thanks, Aldwyn. And yes, it's a very stressful time when our animals pass away. And a lot of people I have spoken to are still holding on to lots of emotions like guilt, grief, remorse, regret, did they do the right thing at the end? Was the animal ready to pass? Should they have picked up sooner that there was something wrong and been able to get them help sooner and give them a longer quality life? But from all the animals I've spoken to, none of them want us to be carrying those emotions. They don't begrudge any decisions we make. They understand that we're making decisions for them based on the best information that we're getting, and that we're doing everything for them based from a place of love. So they don't want us feeling that guilt and grief. Some of the animals I've spoken to passed away from natural conditions, and there was nothing that the humans could have done to prevent that happening. One of the dogs I spoke with had passed away from a blood clot. And so he knew it was some kind of random thing that just happened. And, yeah, his family couldn't have done anything. He wasn't blaming them at all. And he wanted them to be at peace with the situation. So, yes, having a conversation with our animals in spirit means that we can get answers to our questions. So if we weren't home when our animal passed away and we didn't have a chance to say goodbye, or if we don't know why they passed when they did, then we can ask them. They do have good medical knowledge, like the dog telling me about the blood clot. And sometimes it's because they've completed what they needed to do in this lifetime in terms of their life purpose and their soul mission, soul lessons, which all of us as souls have to learn. And sometimes it's because they know they've got an opportunity to come back again, and we'll delve into that a little bit as well. So there are reasons why they can sometimes pass a lot sooner than we'd like them to. And, of course, they don't want to leave us any more than we want them to leave us. So it is a very emotional time. But there is a lot of peace we can get from having a conversation and getting our questions answered.
Yeah, well, it certainly helped me a lot, I must say. And after a few days of crying over beautiful Tiger, and, he had his own gorgeous personality. He was a rescue cat at about a year and a half, had a lot of anxiety when we first got him. He'd been abandoned and been attacked, and he became the most loving cat after 15 years or so, and in the one house, in the happy house here in Southport. And then with a few days after that, I then adopted a cat. Thanks to Wildcats, they let me know about another cat that needed a home that had been in a cattery for a month and had been attacked by other cats. And so I went to see this cat and then, of course, adopted him. So Pablo, little 5-year-old, I've adopted him, and you can see his photo up on Instagram and Facebook, etc. And he just brought so much more joy. And while it still hurts to have lost my other pet, having a new pet, and Pablo's completely different personality, very shy, very timid, very different to Tiger. However, has still brought so much joy. And I know a lot of people who've lost pets over time, they tend not to quickly get another pet because they're usually so distraught and so upset over the loss of their pet that they feel it's really hard to bring on a new pet into the house. And of course, this is a long-term commitment. It's like taking on a child. And, I don't have children myself. Ken hasn't got children. You don't have children either, Annie, right? None of us have children. These are our fur babies, right? These are our children, really. And like people talk about their kids all the time. We talk about our pets all the time, right? We talk, so, and it's like, don't tell me about what your child's doing. It's like us with the cats. People don't really care that much what you're up to with your cat, but of course it means a lot to us because they are like family. So what do you say, Annie, to those who don't want to quickly jump into getting another pet once they've lost one?
Yeah, and it's a question I do get asked, and some people do feel guilty getting another animal very quickly, but our animals in spirit understand that we're not disrespecting the lifetime they've had with us. We're not forgetting about them, and they know that it's actually a way to help heal our hearts by getting another animal to love, and they also recognise that it would be amazing for another animal to come to us because they know the love and care that they've received, and that another animal can actually receive that love and care. And interestingly, if it's not their destiny to reincarnate, they can actually help orchestrate behind the scenes for an animal to come to us, because I've had a few people asking me to ask their animal, did you send me so-and-so? And yes, they did. So they can actually help us to heal by sending us another animal to be part of the family. So it's just amazing what they can do on the other side. Now, they do grieve as well on the other side. It's a process they go through. But for people who are watching, you also need to be aware that your other living animals will be grieving for your animal who has passed away. Now, because they're so perceptive at reading us and our moods, they will know that you're grieving and that you're sad and that you need some TLC. So they will spend a lot of time instinctively trying to comfort you, but they also need comforting. So it's pretty tricky when you've lost an animal that you're coping with the grief, the other humans in the house are coping with the grief, and the other animals in the house are coping with grief. And you feel as though you've got to be able to support all of them, but it's just something that happens. But I have had conversations with animals who are still grieving for their animal sibling years afterwards. And that grief is just so profound. It makes me cry. Sometimes I actually want to bawl. It's that strong. And they're still processing that grief. So they carry that emotional burden for some time. So I think as parents, we just need to be conscious that can be happening. And also when you have a rescue animal like Pablo, you don't really know what he's experienced in his past and what emotional trauma he may still be dealing with. And that's part of the fact with our rescue animals, that it's hidden. And unless we have a conversation with them and they're willing to share, we don't know. Yes, they may have experienced physical trauma, which heals, but you can't see what's inside, what they're dealing with on a daily basis of emotional and psychological impact. And I actually spoke with a dog the other day who's experienced a very traumatic event, and her behaviour has changed because of that, and she fears a repeat event. And she actually told me she's got post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, I've never had an animal tell me that. I've had animals share some of what they're dealing with, but to actually label it shows a lot of insight on her part, and she's ready to get help. And so that just, really reinforces the fact of what they're dealing with on a daily basis. And sometimes people don't know why their animals aren't being affectionate. And sometimes it's because they've just got nothing else to give. It takes everything in their power just to cope with life on a daily basis. So we just need to be very sensitive and very patient with these animals while they're on their healing journey.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I've got my little love heart here, because it's amazing how much just a little bit of love can go a long way with, a traumatized pet or animal, as well as traumatized humans, because really we all want love, right? We all want affection. And, while there might be some ingrained stuff, I just find it remarkable how quickly, animals can turn around and can, even despite all the, the trauma from losing siblings or from trauma in the past, or losing their previous owners or humans, previous humans, it's amazing how quickly they can turn around. And then I've heard other stories of, the animal is so closely attached with their human that when the human passes away, that the animal can often pass away very quickly afterwards, even if the animal is actually younger, which I find quite remarkable. Have you found that as well, Annie?
Look, I think there are stories about the heart connections that we have with animals. And what I've discovered with my conversations is that sometimes we've got very long-standing soul connections with our animals. So I don't know whether listeners will be aware, but some of our animals may have had past lifetimes with us before this lifetime, and they can have been humans with us, or they can have been animals. And it's absolutely fascinating because they can actually recall their past lives and give me really detailed descriptions of what's happened, whereas for some reason when we incarnate, we don't recall our past lives. And they may have had a past life with us in this lifetime, because I've also found people where after having conversations, we've worked out it's actually one of their childhood pets who's now reincarnated and come back to be with them and have another lifetime with them. And I think those connections are just so powerful. And I have a lot of people saying, I've had lots of cats, I've had lots of dogs. This one's really different and I don't know why. And that's because it's someone that they've had this established soul and heart connection with for some time. It may have been across thousands of years that the souls have known each other. And that's just incredible to experience. But that's why the grief can just seem so intolerable, because you do have this very powerful connection. And so, yes, I have heard of animals sort of, and it's described as they've died of a broken heart because their humans not there with them anymore.
Yes, and we hear a lot of this when you've had couples that have been together for years. In fact, my auntie, she'd been with her partner in Turkey for 60 years. He died, and she died 11 days later. So I've heard of a lot of this kind of thing happening with partners who've been together, husband, wife, etc., for years. So yeah, it's a big thing. This heartbreak can definitely kill people. And I'd love to hear Ken's story about his cat shortly. However, I just want to say a quick hello before we do that to our people watching this live. We've got Dewan Ahmed here from LinkedIn. Hello, Dewan. He says special hello to Annie. We've got someone, Facebook user, not sure who you are, Facebook user. Please let us know your name, or allow StreamYard to see just at the top of this stream, just allow StreamYard to see your name and your face. Wow, thank you for those words, re guilt and shame around looking after our animals, Annie. So that's helped someone, which is lovely. We've got Mozzabella Tram here on LinkedIn sending us some love. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Please let us know if you're joining us live, where you're joining us from. And if you have any questions for Annie as well, or for any of us here, then please pop those in. We'd love to get to those. So Ken, let us know about your beautiful putty cat.
So before I share that story, Annie, I'm actually just curious. How in the world did you come to do this as a practice, and how did you learn about this? How did you find out this is what you wanted to do? How did you figure out you had a gift in this area? I'm just very curious on how all of that works.
Yep, great question. And interesting, I'd always felt that my animals could understand me. And I actually used to say to my cats, I wish I could speak cat, because I was just so sure they were just processing everything I was saying. And I had a little ginger girl cat, and apparently something like 97% of ginger cats are boys. So it was quite unusual to have a ginger girl. And sadly, she passed away after a very short illness, and it just made me feel as though I'd missed the opportunity to get to know her on a deeper level. So she's the one who inspired me to start actively looking for an animal communication course, and I found one. And the image on the front of the website of the cat looked exactly like her, same facial markings and everything. And I just know now there are no coincidences. Things happen for a reason. And I thought, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I've actually spoken to her since, because I also talk to animals in spirit. And I said, I just felt awful that I hadn't had a chance to talk to her earlier. She doesn't hold any grudges. It was her purpose, her life purpose, to help me start doing animal communication, because she knew that was my life purpose. And it's interesting, I've just had an astrology reading done for me and also for one of my cats to understand why we're together. And it's written in my birth chart that I'm supposed to be an animal communicator, and particularly connecting with animals in spirit. And I just think that's phenomenal. Like they say, it's written in the stars. It is literally written in the stars that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I started this over 12 years ago now, initially with my very patient cats who were my teachers, and then expanded out to friends' animals. I go and talk to animals at zoos, and then just started a very ad hoc on the side business because I was working full time. And then in May last year, I gave up my government job just so I could help more animals and their humans to understand each other on a deeper level. Because as I've discovered with my conversations, animals are with us for a reason, and it's working out why they're with us. Are they helping us with our life mission? Have they come to us so we can help them with some of their lessons? And I think people where the animals just keep coming back for multiple lifetimes, that we must have some huge soul mission, and they've made a commitment to help us see it through. I've got several people where their animal's soul has been in 3 successive animals, and one whose dog is about to come back and have his 4th lifetime in a row with mum as a dog. And that's just phenomenal, finding out all those links and connections as well. And it just, being able to support a bereaved animal person and find out messages for them from their animal, Like, it just brings so much peace. And for the animal too, it means they've got a chance to connect to their human and say, thank you for looking after me, and any particular messages and wisdom to pass on for their humans. And more as I'm delving into the soul connections and finding out about soul missions and soul lessons, our animals carry so much wisdom. There's so much they can actually guide us about for our spiritual journey and what we need to do to take the next steps. So just tapping into them and just saying, what do you need to tell me? It's just amazing what then comes through to you to help you. And they're just so wise, so articulate, amazing vocabularies. I'm actually mentoring animal parents now to master animal communication so they can talk with their own animals. And the words they use, like some of them we don't use in everyday language anymore. So I suspect they're the animals that have lived in previous eras and are used to the language of the time. And some of the words they've told us in the exercises we do, I've never heard of, but I look them up in the dictionary and they're there. And I just think, wow, how did you know that? And it's interesting because one of my cats came up with an obscure word recently in one of the exercises we did. And I've never said the word, so she hasn't heard it from me. And I said, how did you know that? And it turned out she was an English tutor hundreds of years ago, and she's familiar with the word. So it just blows my mind how much they know and how much they can tell us that people just aren't aware of. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity to share with listeners, because you're going to look at your animal in a totally different light now, particularly knowing that they understand everything you say. Because they have free will, they can choose whether they obey your instructions or not. So when you say don't do whatever it is, they hear you saying that, but they'll work out whether they actually want to do it or not. But they certainly do understand everything that you say. And to me, that's just incredible. But anyway, I want to hear about your little shadow.
So, and I had one other question too, and now it's gone, but hopefully it'll come back to me. Oh yeah, there it is. Sweet. Now, when you and then I promise you after this, I'll share, my story. So do you have to be? This is just a curious question. Do you have to be present in the physical to be able to do your work, or can you do something like that over something like Zoom or something?
Yep. And great question. And that's what I do. I tune into the energetic frequency of the animal. So I read for animals all around the world. I just have to get their humans to email me a photo of them showing their face with their eyes open, like of my cat here, so I can definitely see into the eyes, and ask me the questions. I tune into them. I have to ask consent to have a conversation because communication is a free will choice for animals. So I can't force them to have a conversation. I can't force them to answer questions. It's their choice. But then they just tell me the answers to the questions. I type them up. I send the transcript to the human, and then we have a Zoom debrief session afterwards. I wish I could record the voice that I hear, but telepathic communication is actually in your head. It's not audible in your ear. So I hear their voices in my head. They've all got different voices, just like humans. Some of them are real practical jokers, and I can hear that they're smiling and they tell me jokes. And some of the things they tell me just make me laugh. They've got great senses of humour and their personalities just come through. Some of them sound very posh. Some of them are very laid back, and you just never know what they're going to tell you. So it's just a learning opportunity every conversation.
Very, 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 very intriguing and interesting. So in a sense, you operate kind of like on a on a quantum level.
You could describe it as that, yes, because I'm just tuning into the frequency of the photo, whether it's an animal who's living or an animal who's passed. They've taught me that the soul endures. So even once they've passed over, we can still keep connecting with them. I've spoken with a dog who passed over more than 20 years ago. And to me, the voice sounds as though he's right in the room with me. So that makes no difference. We can always connect with them. And I think that's very calming for bereaved animal parents as well, to know that we can always connect and they're never truly separated from their animal. Life goes on. I call it life after life.
I love it. I love it. So I'm going to, hopefully you can see.
Yes. Tabby with a nice tummy.
Oh, he's so
Nice
cute.
golden tummy. Yep.
So
Yeah.
cute.
Very
He's so healthy
contented.
too. Looks so healthy as well. Gorgeous.
Yeah, that's a fairly recent photo. He's very sweet in the morning, especially when he doesn't want to get up, but he wants to be fed. So this is what that looks like when, you know, he's asking me to feed him, but he doesn't want to get up.
There's a solution to that. You take the bowl into him and you feed him where it is. And I'm guilty of doing that on occasion.
Oh my gosh.
Breakfast in bed.
He's already so freaking spoiled he can get up. So story behind my cat. So years ago, I think it was about 12, 13 years ago. You know, I went to PetSmart and I was looking for a cat. Actually, interesting enough, I was looking for one of his type. And I've actually been told that he's a gray tiger cat. So I've heard that it is very similar to Tabby. But interesting enough, he was like 2 weeks away from being put to sleep. And that's because he was a year old and nobody wanted a year-old cat. Everybody was after kittens. So he was about 2 weeks being put to sleep. And I walked in and he responded right away to me. And they all told me that I was the only person that he had responded to. He came out of his whatever place that he was in, his little cubby hole, and got down on the ground, started rubbing against my legs. And it was just pretty much, he chose me is the way I look at it. And it just so happens that he was the type and personality that I was looking for. And so it just all worked out perfectly. And got everything all taken care of with them and everything else. And then kind of a little bit about the history of having him. The first, I don't know, 3-4 years of me having him, I went into a little bit of some research on what it's like to train a cat, what it's like to maybe, you know, train him a little bit, break a little bit of that free spirit, and kind of make him into more of a, okay, daddy's master. I must, you know, obey daddy, you know, kind of that kind of personality. So through a lot of the research I did, I discovered a few methods of being able to do that. One thing that I discovered, which was actually insanely effective, is when he would do something that I didn't want him to do. Like, for example, oftentimes he'd be laying in my lap and he'd want love. And then all of a sudden he'd reach over and just like bite me. And I didn't like that, you know, so I wanted to train him. That's not okay. You know, later, fast forwarding a little bit later, I realized that there's two different kinds of biting. There's just the aggressive kind, and then there's the love bites. Later I discovered the love bites and learned to detect which one it was. But whenever he would do something like that, bite me, and it was not a good thing, I would then pick him up, put him on the ground, turn him over on his back, and I would not let him up until he gave up and stopped fighting me, which then has kind of established dominance for me. And then it only took a few times of that to where he started to respond really well to that. And all I would have to do is just say, you know, no, and maybe just turn him over. And then eventually it was when I turned him over on his back, he wouldn't fight at all. You know, he recognized that, you know, I mean, and I wasn't harmful. I gently had my hand on his stomach and, you know, kept him there. And I told him that's not okay. No. He responded really well to that kind of training. Now, years later, kind of fast forwarding again, years later, I'm really think that I'm reaping a lot of those benefits because he is number one, he's very attentive to everything that I do. So much so that I can't even go whenever it's time for me to leave for the gym. He knows my routine and he knows I'm getting my gym bag, and he will do everything possible to delay me from leaving. Even to the point to where he gets in this really aggressive, what's the other word I'm looking for? Possessive. He gets into this like aggressive and possessive mode where if I don't give him, I'm, trying to get out the door. And if I don't give him the attention he wants, he will bite me. Now, this I know is a different kind of a bite. It's not a, I'm being bad kind of bite. It's more of the love bite. But he gets that way, even down to where I'll pet him and everything else. And as soon as I start to get up off the floor to grab my bag, I don't even get off the floor all the way. And he's already getting up. And now he is very, very vocal, meowing at me in a way that I understand what he doesn't want me to leave.
Yep.
And speaking of, he's right outside the door asking for something. I don't know. My mom's going to take care of it. He must know I'm talking about him. But, and he is going to come in here.
Talking about him.
Yes, he does.
Because that's the thing they do. They know what you're talking about. Oh, hello.
Oh, Shadow. Oh my gosh, he's so cute.
Hello.
Oh, hello,
Lovely to
Shadow.
meet you.
Oh
That's
my
beautiful.
gosh.
You were having a big sleep.
Okay, there you go. He wants kibble. Give me a second.
Okay, we'll be right back as Ken feed some kibble to Shadow.
All right. Anyhow. So, I mean, it's really, really interesting. His personality and how possessive he is of me. And it's just, and it's in a way I've never seen in any other cat. He's got a personality and an intelligence like I've never seen any cat have. It's just he's very, very, very unique and extremely attached to me. It's all about me. And a couple other things that I wanted to share about I don't know, 2.5, 3 years back, we actually ceased all his processed wet food. We were thinking about doing it for a very, very, very long time previous to that. And it wasn't until he made an indication, a very clear indication, when he stopped even wanting some of his favorite flavors that were out there. And that was a clear indication to us that, okay, it's time to finally, bite the bullet and stop getting him this stuff. Because we knew it's not bad. I mean, it's not good for him. And so we now make all his food. So, I mean, it's human grade people food. I mean, he gets chicken, turkey, and tuna. Now he wants out.
He's got you well trained.
He wants some of that chicken, turkey, and tuna too.
Yeah, I know. You're getting him hungry.
Like, yeah. He's like, that sounds good, Dad.
And that is correct. He does have me well. I mean, I've got him well trained. He's got me well trained.
Yep,
very much so. So it's a partnership, So he responds very well to people food, and he likes people food a lot more. And I wish we would have done that a lot sooner than what we did. The only processed food he eats is his dry food. And that's because I haven't been able to find a holistic dry food that's not through the roof, absolutely unreasonably expensive. And so I just kind of get the healthiest dry food that I can get that's not too over the top expensive. But for the most part, I mean, we make all his food, and then we make it in batches, and then we freeze it in these like little containers, these square containers. And then once it's frozen, it's solid. Then I take it out of the freezer, And then we take it and we put it on a board and we chop it up into little frozen cubes. Each one of these cubes is a serving for him. And at any given time during the day, he used to, when I lived in my Temecula home, he used to have a scheduled time where he would eat, and that was his scheduled time. When I moved down here, I moved in with my mom. I'm her caretaker. Grandma just totally, my mom's grandma to him, grandma just totally thwarted the entire schedule. So now he eats whenever he wants. It's whatever he wants to eat. He knows how to ask, and then he gets whatever he wants. So he probably eats about, on average, 4 to 5 times a day. Plus whatever, if he wants what we're having, he'll either go and beg from grandma or he'll come and beg from me. So yeah, he gets anything and everything he wants. Another thing that I recently started doing with him about 2 years ago, because my mom lost her cat due to kidney disease. And I found, just out of my own knowledge and just out of kind of like what my own logical insights said, cats apparently are innately, they're desert creatures. They don't drink a ton of water. And therefore, that's one of the reasons why kidney disease is so common in most cats, is because they're not getting enough water. So one of the things I switched to doing a couple of years ago with my cat, with Shadow, is I started orally feeding him water. So in the morning and in the evening time, he gets 40 mils in the morning, and that's four syringes, oral syringes full of water. So he gets 4 in the morning and 4 in the evening time. Interesting enough, about 2 years ago, the veterinary told me that he was beginning stage 1 of kidney disease. Fast forward 2 years later, after giving him water orally, his numbers are actually going backwards. So now the most recent report I got from my veterinary is that it's showing that he doesn't have kidney disease. Mm-hmm. So it kind of put him in remission.
Yep.
So I hope it stays that way. But because I want him around for a lot longer. I can definitely say that I know when the day comes and it's time for him to move on. I definitely know that is not going to be an easy thing for me. And that's not a day that I look forward to. So just knowing that he's about 13 years old, just knowing of his age and what that looks like, I think even more so, I cherish every moment that I get with him. And I'm just even more grateful than I ever was before, just because I know that 13 and above, these are like, I don't know, you're going to, like, maybe you call them the rocky years, because those are the years where most cats pass on, which I hope my cat is with me till at least 20. Now, I know some cats, they live to be 20 or older. And so that's what I'm hoping happens here. We thought about getting another cat after my mom's cat died, but because of the way he responded after he had the house, my mom and me all to himself, we decided not to get another cat, because we kind of think that would be detrimental to him and he would take it very personally. So anyhow, there's a lot of little trails I went off on like describing that, but I am so very grateful for him. And I swear there are times where he knows I'm having a stressful day. There are times where he knows I'm upset. There have been times where I've been sitting there and I've been bawling over whatever situation's going on, and he would come, and I knew that he was coming to console me. And so that also meant a lot to me. He's extremely intelligent. I managed to get him leash trained as well in the younger years. He responds well to a leash. The only exception to that is no one else can be around. We live in an apartment complex, and we've got a back garden area. And when I do take him back there for a walk, all it takes is him hearing somebody in their apartment, not outside, in their apartment on the phone or talking with somebody, and he wants nothing more to do with it. He wants back. Yeah. So he is leash trained just as long as no one else is involved. Mm-hmm. And he's intelligent. He knows how to open doors. He knows what it means when I say you want kitty num nums. He knows what it means when I say I'll be back in a little bit, because that's usually when he starts throwing a fit. So yeah.
Yep, you've raised lots of good points there. Yes, it's really important that we don't take them for granted and that we are grateful that they're with us. And that's what I encourage parents to do, is to tell them every day that you love them and you're grateful that they're there. They know that, but hearing us verbalise it, they're very high frequency words, and that does something for them. That's very powerful. So we do need to do that. And Aldwyn's
I
got
can
her
tell that
heart
because when I'm speaking that to him, it's like this eyes slightly closed, this sweet face, and oh my gosh. Oh yeah. I know he understands that that's what I'm saying, that I love him.
Yeah, it's the frequency of the words, because all of the words we utter vibrate at a certain frequency, and they're just much more sensitive to frequencies than we are. So it's really important that we try and use positive words around them and positive names and nicknames for them, because they do get affected by that. When they are closer to passing away, it's a time that we can have a conversation with them and just find out what they'd like to do in their remaining time. So if animals have got a favourite place they like going, or they've got favourite people that they'd like to come over and spend some time with, treats, all of those things, we can find that out. And we can also find out what they want for their end-of-life arrangements. And I'd never had to do this till one of my cats, who was my original animal communication teacher, passed away. And I had to ask her whether she wanted to be cremated or buried. And I've never had to ask an animal that before. And she wanted to be cremated, and she wanted to be in a particular urn. And she wanted a brass urn. It had to be a particular shade of blue, which was of relevance for her. And she said silver on it. And so I thought, okay. So I spoke to someone at the crematorium, but they didn't have anything like that. But the lady said, I think I've seen something like that on eBay. And I'd never been on eBay, and I thought, I don't know whether, can you trust it to be unused or not if you buy it. But I put in a search term for animal funeral urns, and I found this business in Melbourne called Furry Souls, which had started 4 weeks before I looked for them. And on the second page of their urns, here's this brass urn, hand-painted blue enamel, the right shade of blue, and inlaid with a flower pattern called Forget-Me-Not. And it was exactly what we wanted. And like, the owner of the business was just amazed when I told her the story, because how often do you have a cat specifying what funeral urn they want? But that just happens now that I can ask them. I had a dog recently that wanted a particular shade of pink on her urn, and she wanted one of her squeaky toys in the urn with her ashes. So Mum was able to do that for her. So we can ask them what they want. Another dog wanted to be buried and have lots of flowers planted around near her. So her mum's arranged that for her. So it gives us some peace of mind knowing that we're respecting their wishes when it's time to go. A lot of our animals do stay longer than they really should, because they just don't want to leave us, and often they're masking how unwell they actually are because they don't want us worrying about it. So for some of them, it is actually a relief. And I had an animal recently I spoke to, and she said to tell her family that they had her blessing in arranging her at-home euthanasia, because she knew it was her time to go, and her body just couldn't keep going anymore. So yes, it's something that we all don't look forward to, and it's just unfortunate our animals don't live longer than they do. But we can find out some things to give us some peace. We can get messages from our animals. We can pass messages to them. But as I alluded to earlier, one of the most incredible things I've learned is that they can reincarnate. And I knew nothing about that till one of my cats let me experience it. And now it means that I've been able to help so many other parents, because people are waking up now to the fact that soul reincarnation can happen. And the animals seem to know just before they pass or afterwards if it's their destiny to come back. And then they can tell me what species they're going to be, because sometimes they swap species, what breed they're going to be, because sometimes they change from what they were, what gender, often they have to come back as a different gender because that's the body that's available, and what colour they're going to be. And then it means the parents can start looking for them. Sometimes they can give a time frame of when to start looking for them, and sometimes they know where. I had a cat in the UK who was able to tell me the name of the rescue organisation that they were at, and I was able to look online and work out which animal had their soul in it and let mum know so that they could be reunited. And for me, that is the most incredible thing, because it just changes the whole grief process. Yes, you miss your animal who has left you, but to know that they're coming back again, there's just this huge sense of anticipation. You don't know what you're going to feel. And I've said it's really hard because I've had 2 of my cats reincarnate now that I'm aware of. And it's just like this sense of euphoria and joy, but it's also kind of surreal. Like you've just been wanting it so much, and it's kind of weird when they walk back into the house. And it doesn't really seem to worry them. Like they know you, they know the layout of the house, they know the other animals in the house, they know where they have to go to get fed. And it's as though they've just been on this temporary holiday, had a full body makeover. Suddenly they're back. What are you going on about? Like you're the one who has to adjust. But I've actually spoken to them to find out what it feels like for them to come back, because it's a whole new body for them. And they've said it's like putting on a new suit. You've got to get used to how it feels being in that new body. And of course they smell different, and animals heavily rely on scent. So often, like if you take one animal to the vet and you come back, because they've absorbed the smells from the veterinary practice, sometimes your other animals will hiss at them and carry on. And I just think, what are you going on about? You've been best friends for years. But this scent thing is so important. So when they come back in their new body, they do smell different. So your other animals may reject them initially and do the hissing and growling and whatever else. But then normally within a couple of days, they understand who they are on a soul level, and everything's just back to normal. And it's just quite bizarre. But universally now it seems to be 2 days, and it's as though they never left you. Yes, they're in a new body. They might look very different. They might look very similar. But you know on a heart level and a soul level who they are. And that is just so amazing that they can do that.
You know, the other thing I'll share too is kind of more on the lines of my mom's cat. Stormy is what her cat's name was. Stormy was 100% a rescue. 100%. This cat got left. We were under the impression that Stormy was abused, and then also Stormy was left out on the streets to fend for himself for a very, very long time before my mom got him. And they were supposed to be taking care of him at the shelter that he was at, and they weren't, because when we received Stormy, he was almost on his deathbed. I think my mom had to spend anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000 to find, in medical stuff to get Stormy even at a place. And then for I don't know how long, like maybe a month or two of us first having Stormy, we had to like literally force feed him because he was not wanting to eat. Now, in regards to his personality, this cat was a spitfire. This cat just would hiss, scream, everything. Like this very, very, very aggressive, and that's because of where he came from. The reason why I share that is because what really means the most to me is one, eventually when I came down to move in with my mom and to help take care of her, Stormy and my cat had to learn how to get along. My mistake was in the beginning. I introduced my baby to Stormy the wrong way, and I didn't think about it. I didn't know about it. Lesson learned. That will never happen again. But yeah, Stormy was in the cage. I brought my cat downstairs. I was in my Temecula house at the time, and introduced my cat to Stormy, who was still in the cage, my cat flipped. And I later figured out that that's not the proper way to introduce two cats. And I was just like, oh, crap. So their beginning relationship was not good at all. We had to, so then to kind of help kind of band-aid that a little bit, we had to keep Stormy in my Temecula room closet while Shadow got used to Stormy's smell underneath the door.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, we were able to have them both out together. Now, when I came and I moved in down here with my mom, they got along, but they picked on each other a lot. And it didn't take too long, though, to where Stormy started seeing the way my cat was with me. And the interesting thing about it is eventually, and you're talking about a cat, Stormy, who for the longest time we were convinced he didn't know how to accept love. But I am convinced that through watching how my cat was with me, Stormy began to want that kind of affection. So very slowly, Stormy began warming up to me more and more and more. And it turns out that Stormy pretty much made a switch. So he was mom's cat, and then he became my cat. He became just as obsessive with me as my cat was. And it was the coolest thing to see, because the last years of Stormy's life were the best years for us, because we got to literally see Stormy change into a normal cat. He got to change into a cat that accepted love, that wanted that attention, and finally just lived a normal cat life. That meant the world to us, to be able to see at least his last years that he had. That meant the world to us, to see him turn into that. Because and you're talking about a cat that had a temper, and that was just very turn into the sweetest, loving kitty. Still had that weird personality behind all that, but turned just would love to get up on my lap and lay down in my lap, which is something Stormy just never did before. And then it turned into Stormy wanted to lay everywhere my cat had laid. Stormy wanted to lay on my bed. Stormy wanted to lay in my chair. And we would see this over and over and over again. And then in the later years, when I was trying to maintain his kidney disease, but it was too far gone, unfortunately. But I did manage to maintain it a little bit and prolong his life a little bit. But just the fact that he allowed me to orally give him water, knowing his personality and knowing who he was, my mom and I came to the conclusion that Stormy thought of those moments when I was not force feeding him, but when I was orally giving him water, he thought of that as attention, loving attention from me, which is what he wanted. And so he was very accepting of that. Just when you compare where he came from in the past, and just even that fact that I was allowed to give him water and then his medicine that he needed, that was like huge. That was a huge improvement for him. But that's just a little bit of story behind my mom's cat. Very, very, very unique cat. And like I said, we're just grateful that we had the chance to see him blossom into an actual cat. You know what I'm saying?
And I think there's a lot of people that have had similar experiences, and it is hard because they've had to adapt and become defensive because they've had to survive on their own for so long. And it does take a while for them to adapt and understand that you're their forever home and that they can trust you, and that takes a while. But interestingly, I've also spoken with animals, and it's actually been their life lesson to learn how to receive and to give love. So I think you're right on the money with that, and seeing another animal demonstrating it and copying it. But it's just so beautiful that Stormy got to the stage where that could be expressed. So yeah, it's just lovely. But yeah, it's hard for our animals. I'm just in awe that, you know, they're willing to trust another human to look after them if they haven't had that same experience the first time. And I think Aldwyn's going through the same experience with Pablo, that he's still very skittish and he doesn't like males or male voices. And it's learning how to trust someone and having that absolute love, and then being able to give the unconditional love. That just takes a while for that process to happen. But it's all part of evolving our hearts. And that's part of our spiritual growth as well. And that's one of the unique things that animals do for us, is to help us evolve. And as you said, you know, they can read your moods, and they're like little walking mood barometers. And so they instinctively know what's happening. They know when we're getting sick. They can sense that our vibrational frequency drops, and then they know that we need some extra TLC to help us get better, because to them, we're their world. And they will do anything they can to help us. I've even spoken with animals who have actually voluntarily taken on their human's health symptoms so that the human is not taking the full brunt of the condition. I've actually had 2 of my cats do that, and I've spoken to so many animals who are doing it that when I now get asked to ask an animal why they've got the symptoms or what's going on, I say, how much of this is yours and how much are you taking on for your humans? I had a friend's dog who with a knee problem, and had all these tests and they couldn't find anything. And I said to Mum, who in the family has got knee problems? And she said, oh, both my husband and I do. And so the dog was taking on some knee pain so that both the parents didn't have to take on the full intensity of the knee pain. And they just do it selflessly to be of service for us. But there's so many things they do behind the scenes that people don't know. Just because they know so much, they feel so much, they sense so much.
Yeah, fascinating. And Ken, how old was Stormy when Stormy passed? Was it male, female?
I think he was male for sure.
Male.
He was, I think he was like 11. I'm really not sure how old he was.
Right.
He passed away January 9th, 2020. We had to put him to sleep.
Wow,
you know, but that was another thing too. We also feel very blessed as well, because when he was diagnosed with the final, okay, it's time to think about putting Stormy down. Here's your options, blah, blah, blah. They sent him back home with an infusion of IV fluids, which literally gave us an extra 5 days with Stormy. And so we really felt blessed from that, because not a lot of people get that. A lot of people they take their pet to the vets and they're being told, you know, you need to put this cat down now, you know, and they don't have a whole bunch of time. We felt blessed because we had 5 days. Because of his IV infusion of fluids, it literally revived him back into the cat we knew he was. And so for at least 3 days, it was even to the point to where, you know, I made the statement to my mom. I'm like, maybe we don't need to put him down. I mean, look at how he's reacting. But then the 4th day, he started showing those signs again because he was getting dehydrated again. But we really feel blessed because that window of 5 days that we had just was everything to us. And we just gave him anything and everything he wanted during that time. It was his. So, yeah. But I think he was around, you know, 11, 12, maybe somewhere around there. I don't remember how old.
Yeah, extraordinary. And I've spoken to quite a few cat rescue people just in the last few weeks, because we're actually doing a fundraiser coming up on the Gold Coast, which Annie's going to be speaking at on October 8. We're doing a fundraiser called Animal Action Day for Cats. It's about awareness, appreciation, respect for cats, raising funds for Wildcats, which takes in injured and abandoned cats, and some other grassroots cat charities. And one thing I was shocked to hear recently is that the Animal Welfare League actually do put some cats down. I thought they were a no-kill shelter, and some of them will actually, some of these shelters, they get so inundated with animals that they will actually kill them if they're not socially acceptable as far as their behavior is when they come into the shelter, which I find absolutely horrifying, as I had no idea. I thought they were that a lot of them, when they say no kill shelter, that they are a no-kill shelter. So Animal Welfare League, apparently now they've changed their wording on their website to say that they will not kill any animals that are socially acceptable, etc. Right? And the thing is they do take time to settle down and to trust people. And a lot of people now, because we've got a big rental crisis here in Australia at the moment, and people are really struggling to even feed their families, that a lot of cats and dogs are getting dumped all over the place. They're being found in all sorts of places. And I just heard the other day there's a big group there's about 80 of them in Bundall that volunteers have been going to feed, that have just been that once upon a time were people's pets, and now they've become about 80 of them because they keep breeding, and within apparently 4 to 5 months after a kitten is born, they can start breeding within 4 to 5 months. And so we've got a major problem on our hands, and we need to educate people around this, which is part of why we're doing this fundraiser, which Annie is speaking at. And for anyone who wants to get involved in that, want to find out more about it, just go to the Animal Action Events Facebook page. We're going to have all the updates on there. But date for the diary, day event, October 8, Mermaid Waters Hotel, or just PM me and we can give you more details on that. So it's quite a heartwarming story, Ken, that you share about how Stormy went from being such a troubled and obviously traumatized cat to then becoming so loving within a short amount of time. It's interesting that Stormy and Shadow are both males, right? So, yeah. And so as males...
That presented its own problems, trust me.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Everything from spraying to, my receiver out there for my television out there, I think this is the third one that I've had. So the first one that I brought from my Temecula house, I think Stormy was the one that peed on it, and it made it short out. I got a brand new one, and then that one got peed on, and it got shorted out. And then I'm on my third one. Now, thankfully, my third one, there's been no problems, but it even got to the point to where we had to buy a special kind of fencing to put around that area in our living room, to where they, I don't think I ever caught who it was. I mean, my suspicion was that it was Stormy, because Stormy was very particular. Stormy really preferred not to use the cat box. Stormy preferred to go outside in our backyard. This presented a problem when it was in the middle of the night. And there were a lot of times in the middle of the night, Stormy would want to go outside, but there was nobody to let him out. And so I'm thinking that he got mad and then would pee on something. So, I mean, that was the other issue. So with it being two male cats, so there was always this thing, and they would always irritate each other. Stormy would be in the chair that my cat would be in. So then my cat, and I have video footage of this because it was actually entertaining. It really was. I'd be sitting there on the couch watching TV or whatever, and then my cat would go over to where Stormy was laying in a chair that he wanted to be in. And because Stormy was in that chair, my cat would then go over there and torment Stormy. Stormy would sit there just batting at my cat over and over again, and my cat would just keep coming back for more. It was just entertaining to watch, just watch them go at it. And they never really hurt each other. But it was absolutely hilarious just to see the two of them go at it like that. It was hilarious. One other thing I wanted to mention, Annie, is it's interesting. Since I have switched my cat over to human food and all of that, the vet that I go to, there's often times where I'm telling him these things and I'm like, okay, you know, his diet is, you know, right now it's like turkey, tuna, and chicken, and it's all human food. It's what we eat, you know, and I explain this to him because every once in a while he's like, well, what's his diet look like? You know, he's just asking questions. When I share the more holistic stuff that I'm doing with my cat, it's almost like he gets this glazed over face and he just doesn't say much about anything, which has now kind of led me to go and start researching holistic vets, which I did manage to find one through actually a person that goes to my gym. We actually got in a conversation about it, you know, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and she recommended this place that I can go to. But one of the reasons behind that is because, you know, like I know that because he's getting human grade food, he's going to be lacking in certain nutrients and stuff like that. Well, I need to find out how I can not only provide what nutrients he needs, but also do it in a budget friendly way. Because a lot of these holistic products out there are so dang expensive. And, you know, just kind of wanted to know what your thoughts on that regarding, you know, also with my vet's reaction. He never says good or bad about anything like that. He keeps very, very neutral with the whole thing. And that's kind of what's led me down the path of maybe I need to start researching on a holistic vet. What are your thoughts on that?
And I think, you know, different people have different experiences. Like my vet knows that I talk to my animals, and I'm probably the only client they have that does. So she's been very accommodating with that. And I think they can see the relationships that I have with them because I can talk with them and find out what's going on. I think some people are very used to what they were trained with at university, and that's, you know, the regimes that they follow. Some people are open to new approaches and looking at different things like the supplements, natural products, like, you know, some people use CBD oil with their animals. I've used essential oils and crystals and Reiki with animals, so natural products to help support well-being. So I think there are a number of people out there who are open to the fact that we can use different resources to help with well-being. There's not just one thing. I think with cats it's tricky because, as one of my cats used to keep telling me, that he's an obligate carnivore. They have to have meat in the diet. That's just part of who they are. And I've seen a tiger at a rescue property that was owned by a person where they were able to, in America, have a wild animal as a domestic animal, and it was being fed cat food, like wet cat food, didn't get any meat. And so the whole skeleton hadn't developed properly because they hadn't been getting the right nutrients in the diet. It's now been rescued. It's actually getting proper meat, and it looks very healthy. But when you look at it behind, it's just got this skinniest little pelvis, just because it didn't get that proper bone structure. So there are certainly certain elements that animals need. I know some people are looking at vegan diets for animals, and again, they would need to have the correct supplements and nutrients in them to replace what they're not getting in the meat. So I think there's a lot of research being done on, you know, what are suitable replacement diets for animals. But as you say, it's up to the animal parent to do the research and find out what sits with you as being a good diet. And I've also spoken to people who are manufacturing dried food for animals and deliberately not having fillers in them, because fillers can cause problems for animals as well. So I know that there are some better quality products. Unfortunately, they're not being marketed in Australia yet, so I can't use them. But there is research being done all the time on different things, and to help with substances in them that help prevent diseases as well and maintain, you know, healthy systems. And I really like your idea of supplementing the fluid intake as well. But yes, I think it is a contentious issue, and it's like everything. Like some people are awake to spirituality and some people aren't. When people haven't experienced reincarnation, they've got no frame of reference. Like, how is that part of reality? Whereas for me, I've had, years now to get my head around it, and that's just a normal part of my business now. And I deal with animals in spirit all the time and have conversations and find out, but it's having that experience and exposure to it before it comes accepted in mainstream.
Yeah, I love this topic about food because I with my cats now, I give a mix of dry food, cat food, and human food. So I do a mix of a whole lot of things. However, I do find that if I do too much cat food or too much dry food for a while, that I find that the cat will start to get bored with that food. And so I like to generally mix it up. And I think, well, across a range of different types of food, surely they're going to get the right nutrients, right? However, some people I've heard feed their cats pasta, and that is really, really bad because what happens is their bones get very weak if they don't get the right food. So while we're feeding sort of food that is good for human consumption, which could be bits of meat or whatever, I don't know how the vegans go. Actually, if there are any vegans here or people who feed their pets just pure vegan food, please let us know if that works, because I would much rather, feed vegetables and things like that. I have had a mix of sort of a vegetable dish that I gave my cat, which he did actually eat a bit of, like peas and, some different things. But I know there's certain food not to give them as well that we need to be aware of, which certain cat charities would share more about. Do you know certain foods not to give?
Look, I actually wrote about this in my book because there's a lot of people who don't know, because people are just so used to, the animals, they're begging for something off your plate, so you just give them something. But things like grapes are not safe for dogs, and garlic and garlic particularly not for cats and dogs, and chocolate can be really not safe for cats and dogs as well. I know you can get special dog and cat chocolate because some of them just love the smell of it and they just want to get into it. But I've seen some very sick animals from finding a stash of chocolate and helping themselves. So they just can't eat all of the human food. And we just, as animal parents, we just really have to look at safety. It's the same thing with flowers. Like, cats are very sensitive to lilies. So any form of lily flowers you shouldn't have anywhere near cats. I actually got sent an arrangement that had these tiny little flowers in, and I'd never seen them before. And I thought, I'm not really sure about them. Rang up the florist who sent them. They're lilies. And so, I just love florists to know not to put lilies in arrangements if they're going to a home with cats. And for people to actually say who are ordering them, look, it's going to a house with cats, please no lilies.
In regards to the flowers, it's funny. Like, we now have to, when I get my mom flowers, she has to keep them in her room out of sight, meaning out of sight of my cat, because my cat has literally adapted in this, I don't know what it is, but some of these flower arrangements, they have like these long green stem thingies that come out kind of like grass.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he likes to sit there and pick at it and then pull it and chew it. And so what ends up happening is, fortunately, it hasn't happened yet where he's knocked the entire vase over and made a big mess. But I've caught him quite a few times in just enough time before that does happen. So now when I get her flowers, she, as soon as his little antennas go up and he's like, "Ooh, flowers," and he jumps up, then he's like obsessive. We can move it to anywhere. And if he sees where that gets moved to, he will go find it. So she has to take it and put it in an area that he can't get to that easily, or he doesn't want to. Otherwise, we have a mess. So it's interesting, and it's all over the green things. I don't know what
Yeah.
his
Whether
fixation
he's
is.
thinking it's grass, but I think it's the scent of some of them as well. But one of my cats loved the fragranced roses I used to grow, and there was only one spot that I could put them on a kitchen bench where he couldn't knock over the vase. But I'd come home and there would be a rose lying in the middle of the kitchen floor, and he'd just look at me like, it jumped out there all by itself, Mum, and nothing to do with me. So I used to call him my sensitive new age cat because he liked floral arranging and playing with the roses. So I have to get something that's safe, like roses or carnations, so I know if they do get up and play with them that it's not going to cause them any harm. But it's just things that people don't think about, but it can make such a difference to our animals' well-being.
And there's a lot of debate I've noticed with different cat charities that I've been talking to lately. Like some like to have cats outdoors and some like to keep the cats indoors. And, I'm curious, Ken, as you were sharing that, I wonder how much time you actually have or let a Shadow be outside. How much outside time?
So, first of all, let me say this. For cats and dogs alike, if you are going to own a pet, you treat that pet as if it were a member of your family. You do not get a dog and then stick the dog outside and that's the dog's life. That is not owning a pet. There, I've said it. Now, with that being said, as far as like outside goes, like Shadow's always been mostly a house cat. But if he wants outside, we do have an enclosed backyard area. When I first moved down here with my mom, we had to teach him and train him. No, it's not okay to jump up on the fence, because I didn't want him getting curious and then walking off somewhere else. So once we established that, we can let him out in the backyard anytime we want now, and he's just fine. He'll lay in the middle of the grass, whatever. He will catch mice. He loves to catch lizards and eat them and leave the tail behind. When I lived in my Temecula house, he loved to catch mice a lot of times in the middle of the night. One will come in through the bottom of the door, and then I'd wake up in the morning. I'd come down the stairs. I'd be just looking around, la la la, because I'm just checking things out, da da da. And then barefoot, I step on the bloody head.
Oh.
So there's those lovely experiences, but so I let him out when he wants out. Unlike other cats, though, you can't just do that without accepting the fact that they're going to go wander the neighborhood. My cat, I didn't want that, so I've been very careful to train him in a way to where it's like, okay, this yard is safe, don't go beyond this yard. It's kind of like,
Yeah, I think that's important because, when we got Pablo here for the first time, we wanted to get him used to outside, and we took him out the back and he freaked out. He actually went running up a tree, and he was actually up this tree or like in the backyard, like just panicking for the whole of the night. We actually thought we'd lost him. We thought, oh no, we've let him out too soon, because you meant to have him in a place for a few weeks, getting used to a place before you let them out. And Tiger, he was in and out all the time. He was always, he loved being outside. He loved getting sun on him. He loved lying in the grass in the sun and things like that. And what happened with this Pablo, because Pablo lived in a house before with 3 cats and 2 outside dogs. And so, of course, the minute he went outside, he would have freaked out thinking, oh my gosh, some dogs are going to come and get me. And, he would have been paranoid about that. So now he has the option to get outside on the balcony. We have a little cat door here. So he mostly stays inside because he has been an indoor cat, but he's very curious. He kind of wanders out on the balcony and has a little look around, and, and obviously he's been out overnight, and he came back, and that was actually within the first week. So, that we thought we'd give him a little sniff outside. So yes, you do have to be very careful, I think, if you are going to have that happen.
We've had to also be careful with Shadow too, because Shadow will attack things that come through our backyard, like possums and different things like that.
Right.
So a lot of times at nighttime, if he wants outside, which he normally does, if I'm suspicious, I have to take my flashlight, I have to go and I have to like scope the fences and everything else to make sure there's nothing out there, because there's been numerous of times where he'll want out. I won't be thinking of it. I'll let him out. And then 4 or 5 minutes later, I hear stuff that I should not be hearing. About 3-4 weeks ago, something came out of nowhere. All I caught was shadows in the dark. So I don't know if it was a raccoon. I don't know if he attacked a possum. I don't know, but it was a vicious sound. It was craziness. I got out there just in time to see whatever it was dart off in the corner, and then to bring my cat in. And boy, oh boy, you better believe I took a flashlight and I checked every inch of him just to make sure he didn't get bit or something. But so it's always a real careful thing. Generally, if I know he's out there and he's hunting a mouse, I'll let him hunt the mouse, because those things are fun for him. Those things are, once he catches the mouse, he loves it. He has fun with it. He throws it up in the air. He's happy. He's proud of himself. I let him have that moment, and that's part of nature. But things like possums and stuff like that, I generally would like him to leave the possums alone. Unfortunately, he killed a baby possum a few nights ago that was on our porch. Now, I don't know if he actually killed it or if it was playing dead. Possums are really good at playing dead. This one was laying very, very still, just fresh. And so I picked this little guy up and I stuck him far off in the far end of the corner yard behind our wood pile, just hoping that maybe he was playing dead and maybe he would run off but so I don't know. I never saw it again after that. But so every once in a while we have an occurrence and that happens, and it's just it's unfortunate, but it is nature. But yeah. But
yeah, it's a big point. And this is why some people will have collars with bells on them. The bells can alert animals. If the cat's outside, it can alert animals to.
That's not always effective, because cats like my cat knows how to keep those bells quiet when he's after something.
Yes, that's true too. They can hold the bells sometimes. And then I found out recently there's collars and there's collars. Now, very interesting, since we've been doing the putting together the Animal Action Day for cats, is that certain collars, apparently the buckle up ones, are not very good for cats. And when I asked Barbara Jackson, who runs Wildcats Rescue, when I asked her why that is, this is her answer. She said, we've seen too many cats with collars embedded in their necks or got snagged on a branch by their collars, unable to get free and die there, or they get their front legs stuck in the collar while they're out and they can't get home. Their owners can't find them. Their leg eventually turns gangrenous and they die. We advise anyone putting a collar on their cat to use only pop-off collars, never buckle collars, as they are the dangerous ones. And she said, we've had to PTS several cats rescued with terrible collar injuries. And then she has a bunch of collars. She's going to bring the pop-off collars. She's going to bring some to the Animal Action Day for cats. So that's fascinating, even about collars. I had no idea. What are your thoughts, Annie? Indoor, outdoor cats, collars, what do you think?
Look, I think a lot of people are now building what they call a catio, which is a place where they can get appropriate screening, that the cats aren't going to get caught in the screen. So they get the fresh air. They can have an area where they can get some sunlight. You can put the pot plants out there that are safe for them and get the cat grass and toys and that kind of thing. So they're kind of getting an outside experience, but they're still safe. And some councils, don't want you having a cat that's roaming around. They set up cat traps and all of that kind of thing. So, and some cats, are just sold on the understanding that they're going to be an indoor cat and that you're going to be a responsible human for them and keep them inside. So, yeah, I think it's a tricky question, because it's just their innate instinct to want to go and hunt and go and check out what's going on. They don't really like being restricted in a space, but if that's what they're used to from when they're a kitten and they're inside and that's what their world is, then they adjust to that. And you can still stimulate those behaviours. Like I've got toy mice and toy rats all over my house. They've got climbing palaces to climb, similar to climbing in a tree. So you can do things to simulate what they're missing out on by not being out in the wild. But you know that they're safe. And as you say, they're not going to get attacked by a possum or in Australia bitten by a snake or those kind of things. They're not going to get hit by a car. So it is part of their safety as well.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why whenever I let them out, like I have to, if there's like my antenna, if it's up going, you should check, I better go out in the yard and check and make sure it's safe and for him to go out there. Cause we live right across from a flood control. And so there's a lot of different animals that come through our yard. Some possums actually cross our yard to get to the other side, where there's another like garden area, grass and stuff like that. Most of the time, my cat leaves him alone. He'll just sit there and just kind of like stalk him and just kind of like stare and just kind of watch, especially if they're the larger kind of possum. But if they're smaller, then he tends to think rats, food, kind of like thing. And so it's just, yeah, what you got to do. You just got to, keep watch and just make sure.
Here's some interesting trivia actually not trivia. This is from Wikipedia. This is the oldest living cat was called Cream Puff.
Yeah.
From 1967 to 2005. It was a tabby domestic cat in Texas, and it lived to 38 years and 3 days, or about 168 cat years. And another female is now 39 years since 38, 39 years, the oldest living cats. Now, interesting, the lifestyle. We have a look at the lifestyle of Cream Puff. So Cream Puff's owner, Jake Perry, said her diet consisted of dry cat food supplemented with broccoli, eggs, turkey, bacon, coffee with cream, and every 2 days an eyedropper full of red wine. Perry claimed that this diet was key to her longevity and that the wine circulated the arteries. And also it said Perry kept Cream Puff very active within the home. So it was a home cat, turning the garage into a movie theatre that played nature documentaries for the cats. And wooden steps were built into the walls of Perry's home for the cats to climb on. And Perry had built a screened enclosure in his backyard for his pets, including Cream Puff, to enjoy the outdoors. That's interesting. The oldest living cat was indoors with an outdoor enclosure. How fascinating.
Yep.
And look at that food. Like, who would have thought a wine dropper? I put some wine in there. That's fascinating.
That is very fascinating. I haven't heard that one yet, but the broccoli and all the other stuff, that to me, that makes sense because he's helping give the cat the nutrition that the cat needs. So the cat's just not. See, that's also kind of what I'm looking to perfect with my cat, because right now all he's getting is just the pure chicken and then turkey and then tuna. I'm looking to find the right supplements for him to make sure he's getting also the proper nutrition, because he's very picky. He's so picky to the point to where you'll probably love this, Annie, but if we feed him something back to back, so if he just had chicken and maybe an hour later he wants to be fed again, and if I give him chicken, this is what he does when he doesn't want the particular selection that you've given him.
Scrapes with his back leg as though it's absolutely
No. Actually, more pronounced than that. He will turn around and with his front paw, he will go like that as he's walking away. Like, no, I don't want this. That's what he does. Yep. It's hilarious, but he's got us so trained to where it's just like if you fed him turkey last, he gets chicken or tuna. If Yep.
The other interesting thing in that story about Cream Puff is the watching the videos, and I've actually experienced that with my cats. There was some documentary about I think it was somewhere in Asia with an old temple that's got a lot of monkeys in it. My cats were just glued, watching the monkeys running from side to side. They're just intrigued. And I know a number of people who have actually gone and got animal documentaries and play them for their animals. So it's animal TV. I know some people have got fish tanks and the cats sit there and watch the fish swimming around. But something where they're moving unexpectedly, like the monkeys, is just intriguing for them to watch. So, yes, I've done that too.
Ah, fascinating. That might be why my cats always love to jump up. Usually, when I'm online here doing a show, they generally love to jump up and see what's going on.
The movement just captures them, and it'll be the same
Yes.
with Shadow being instinctive, wanting to chase the animals. It's not the fact that they're hungry; it's the fact that something's moving, and they've just got this thing. If something's moving, they've got to chase it and catch it.
Yeah, fascinating. And actually,
most
within
of the time, I'm okay with that because I know he enjoys that, especially if it's a lizard. Oh, he loves it when he catches a lizard and eats it. That's just part of their nature. But
yeah, I just want to save all the animals, but of course they are hunters, right? Some of them are hunters. And within a few days, actually, of getting Pablo here, I could hear in the middle of the night this munch, 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 munch. And I looked down, and sure enough, he's got himself a little rat that he was just munching on right on the floor right next to my bed.
It's the most horrible sound, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. I don't know whether
I don't have that. But I have spiders and little lizards, and if I see them, the cats are sitting there waiting for them to fall down off the ceiling. So at least I can talk to the lizards and spiders and say, "Could you please just go and hide somewhere where my cats can't see you?" And then they go and move.
Yeah, it's the same with the lizards. So between mouse and lizards, I mean, it's the same with the lizards as far as the crunch, and it's like I gotta walk away because I'm like, it's just.
Yeah. I just thought, what the hell is that? And sure enough, there was like, welcome to the happy house. Here we are. We've just caught your first rat. So I thought, okay, Pablo, well, we probably have a few that need clearing out. So that's great. And hey, they do eat it. So I guess it's not being wasted, right? It's just nature doing its thing. And they probably get some other nutrients they get from rats and lizards and that they wouldn't get in your cat food. So or your the human food, etc. So yes, fascinating. Now I want to come back to the point. Now I know we've been chatting for an hour and a half. We probably easily chat for 3 hours on this topic, but we will wrap up sort of shortly. And we have some great comments too. We'll come to. Thank you for those who've left comments in the chat. But I do want to come back to the kidney issue and how Annie was saying that pets often take on issues of their owners. Because interesting, I've had adrenal issues, right? Which is of course your adrenals are linked to your kidneys, right? And I didn't realize how much this is such a common thing with older cats. And for anyone who knows about Louise Hay and her Heal Your Life book, she talks about the emotional side of any physical ailments, how it's dis-ease in the body in some way. And what she actually says is that according to Louise Hay, if you have a kidney issue, it's about anxiety. It's not trusting the flow and the process of life. It's resistance to feeling. It's deadening of the self. It's excessive fear. So it's a fear-based thing. And also I believe anger is at the base also of any kidney issues as well. There could be some anger there that's been suppressed, right, for the cat potentially. And I know as Tiger was coming to his later years, there was someone who was yelling at Tiger quite a bit that would lose their temper with Tiger. And I would keep saying to them, look, just calm down. She just got really frustrated. And when I was talking to Annie, she said, look, often cats will cry or they'll meow more when they're not well because they're trying to tell us that they're not well, right? And we didn't know. We were just thinking, why is this cat meowing all the time? And there was someone in the house here who was just getting frustrated and yelling at the cat. And I'd keep saying, don't yell at the cat because they can feel the energy of that, right? They can And so I wasn't happy about that. And I don't think that helped the issue. However, I just want to say for those who think that their cat may have kidney issues, these are the things to look out for: the general symptoms: dehydration, excessive thirst, weakness, weight loss, lack of appetite, diarrhea may contain blood, vomiting may contain blood, depression, and bad breath. These are things that can lead to kidney issues. Although with Tiger, he stopped eating as much and he wasn't drinking as much towards the later part, and he got skinnier and skinnier. And if we actually got onto the water with him earlier, I think if we injected the water into, as Ken was saying, if I'd only known earlier that this could have been an issue, we could have got some water into him. And a lot of cat rescue people I've spoken to, they said if you flush them with water, you can actually help repair and reverse the symptoms of kidney issues if you get onto it soon enough.
Yes,
So
and
just knowing
that's been my personal experience. Yes, just with his last visit to the vets and the reports that I got, I asked the doctor. So I'm like, "Are you saying that his kidney numbers are showing that he doesn't have kidney disease?" And he's like, "Yes," and I'm just like,
well done. Yep.
So it's good you got onto that soon. And I also think a lot of vets are very quick to put down animals too. And I've, in fact, 3 times I've taken animals to vets, and each time they've put the animal down. And one of them was a bird that my cat had attacked once that was still alive. I took it to the vet, they put it down. I had 2 possums. I had a mother possum and a baby possum. The possum just had a little bit of dermatitis around the eye, and they put the mother down. I was so upset about that one, because the possum was fine, but they just said, oh, it was too far gone on the eye. But if you had a child that had a little bit of dermatitis on the eye, you wouldn't go and kill your child, would you? Yet so many vets do, because they're so run off their feet. They're overwhelmed. They can't handle the amount of animals coming through, which I do understand that too. And then another time was a cat that had been hit on the side of the road that was still living, still breathing, but they said, oh, it was in too much pain, and they put that one down as well. So 3 times now, 3 out of 3, they've put the animals down without me knowing, because you just take it to them and they just do what they want, because these were wild animals, I guess I took in, because one was a cat that belonged to someone. I found the owner, because I found the cat run down up the road. The other one was a bird that my cat had attacked, so it was a wild animal. And possums, they consider wild animals too, even though I had been feeding these possums for several years at my house. It was a mother had several babies at the house, and Tiger would never attack those possums, interestingly, Ken, right? So you had a cat that did attack possums. My cat wouldn't attack the possums. And I talked to the cat, and I said, these are our friends, the possums here. So I think that may have helped, speaking to the cat about that. But in saying that, speaking to another animal lover friend of mine, she said, look, most of the time you're better off just leaving the animal where they are in the wild, because most of the times they sort themselves out. So just leave them where they are, because it can really stress them out even more when you take them to a vet potentially. Yeah. So Annie, what are your thoughts on that when it comes to wild animals?
Look, I am aware of a number of people working in rescue organisations, and I think they're very similar to vets, that they're getting run off their feet as well. And there's a number of areas where they just haven't got anyone who can rescue the animal. I know we found an injured kookaburra somewhere, and we took that to someone to help resuscitate. I think it had a damaged wing and an injured crow. I had a carpet snake over 2 meters long just suddenly appear near my front door, and I had no idea it was there. I'd gone out to my letterbox to get the mail barefoot, no phone, just the keys for the letterbox, and walked back and saw it there, and I thought, oh my God, how am I going to get back in the house with this great big snake? And I thought, I didn't know what kind of snake it was at the start, and I thought, well, I don't really want it getting any closer to me. So I just talked to it, and I said, I'm glad you're here in my garden and you're happy, but would you mind just moving back a bit, please? I'll go and get into the house and ring someone up to come and move you somewhere safe. So after lots of phone calls, I finally found a snake catcher who could come and get it. And he was so funny, because he picked it up and sniffed it, and he said, oh, it's shed not long ago. So it knew it was a new skin it was in. He kissed it and then put it in a bag to go and release it somewhere else. So I thought, well, at least it's got another chance at having another life somewhere. So yeah, but I mean, it is hard. Like, I lived in Tasmania for a number of years, and some of the roads there were just, all the big heavy log trucks and things going through. There were just tons of dead kangaroos everywhere, and that's very distressing to see. But some of the quieter roads I'd go on, I saw a quoll, which is a little furry creature with spots on. I've never seen them before, and this was in the daylight, and they're normally sort of more nocturnal, so you just never know what you're going to see. And that's another thing I've discovered as well, that when you do see an animal or get repeated messages about an animal, that is a message that's coming through to you. So you could look up possum and look up possum totem animal meaning, and then you understand what the message is when you see them. So that the animals do try and get you have a totem animal who is kind of your spirit guide, but as an animal representative.
Mm-hmm.
And when an animal crosses your path, there's a reason for why they're doing that. And so I had a meditation a few weeks ago, and in the meditation there was an aardvark, and the other animal's not going to come to me at the moment. I can see it. It's the most trafficked animal in the world. It's got funny little shells on it. The name escapes me at the moment. But I'd never had either of these animals appear in meditations or anything before. So I looked up, whatever the animal was, totem meaning, and to see what the message was that they were going to send me. And it was quite interesting what they actually sent. So, it's just another way that they communicate with us when we can't communicate with them telepathically.
Yeah, I've often heard that if you see butterflies, it's a symbol of freedom and,
transformation.
Transformation. So it's good to just notice the types of animals that you spot, that you notice that are in your surroundings or in your life. And it's interesting, Pablo being a black and white cat, I often say it's like the yin yang of life. When I look at Pablo, I see the dark and the light. And, and I'm always talking about that, right? I'm always talking about how any negative can be turned into a positive, etc., and of course the other way around, depending on your view of life. And so it's a fascinating world of animals. And I must say, life without animals would be a hell of a lot more boring than it is now. I love animals. I love the David Attenborough documentaries. They are very much like a family for us. And I just want to share here from Jono Hart. Thank you, Jono. He was the one earlier who was a Facebook user from Adelaide. He said, I made the comment rethanking Annie for the mention on animals' request of us not having to hold guilt and shame with them. I used to have a beautiful golden retriever who lived 17 years. My family and I euthanized him in 2015 because he could barely walk anymore. Oh, he is missed. Well, that he obviously had a great life with you, Jono. Any messages for Jono there on that one, Annie?
I think it's knowing that the animals miss you too, and it is hard making that decision at the end. Sometimes our animals just aren't strong enough to be able to pass over on their own, and they do appreciate us assisting them. And I've had to learn that too, that it is a great act of love to help an animal pass over when it's their time and when they can't do it on their own.
And I have a question.
Yep.
Regarding that. So when we had to put Stormy down, I think, I understand why the vets do this, but I didn't know that that's what was going to happen, and I did not expect it, and I didn't like it at the time. So they put Stormy on some kind of
they often do a sedative first just to help them get very sleepy.
Yeah, and the thing of it was, I didn't like that because when they brought Stormy back to us, that wasn't Stormy. He wasn't responding to anything. And so they brought him back to us, and they're like, if you'd like some more moments. And once I recognized the fact that he wasn't responding to anything, he was limp, he was just, I'm like, just put him down, because that was, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Why do they do that? Because I know I know that there was a time where they didn't do that, and they would just euthanize, and then that was it. That's almost what I would have preferred happen, even if I had to have watched the body reactions that happen. I would have almost preferred to do that and to actually say goodbye to Stormy and to know that he was present in that moment. I didn't like the sedative. So what are your thoughts on that?
And it's interesting because a lot of people I've spoken to found that very gentle, like that already had the opportunity to say goodbye before then. And then the vet explains, look, we're going to give them a sedative first so they'll just feel a bit sleepy and drift off. And then they get the second injection, which finally puts them to sleep. So it's just a more gentle process for the animal, having that sedative first and then the end. But it's, telling you first what's going to happen so that you've got a chance to say goodbye when they're still with it and able to respond to you.
And we had a chance to say goodbye. It just, they might have said that that's what they were going to do. Maybe I misunderstood, but they brought Stormy back to us with some kind of IV, and then he was just limp, and it just was a disappointment.
Yep. No, I understand that.
Yeah.
That's sad. Oh dear.
And I just wanted
Yes.
to say it was what was
Yes.
that?
Oh, I'll bring that
The
up.
animal that I was thinking of was the pangolin. So it was
Oh,
an aardvark and a pangolin. So
oh,
yeah,
wow.
very interesting. But yeah, sorry, you were
Okay.
just going to show some more
Oh,
comments, I
yes.
think.
So another comment here, you don't have to retrain reincarnated animals, question mark. So do you have to retrain reincarnated animals? Good question.
Look, they remember things, and that's what amazes me, because they'll know, where the bathroom is, where you're serving the meals, all of that kind of routine. They just remember. And it's funny because it's an aspect of the soul that comes back. It's not 100% of the soul. Part of the soul stays in spirit like an anchor. This is what they've been teaching me, and it's an aspect of the soul who comes back. So that aspect is going into a body they've never been into before, but they remember all of that stuff about their last lifetime, what their soul lessons are, who you are, who their, fur family is, or other animals in the household. So I don't feel that you do. I don't know what they're referring to specifically, training for what, but my understanding and experience is that they recall a lot of their past lifetimes. So I would say no.
Fascinating. And actually, when Pablo came here, he came and drank out of the water fountain, which is something that Tiger used to do. And before I adopted Pablo, I actually communicated in spirit with Tiger, and I said, is it okay to take on Pablo? And I felt a full body yes with that. And so I felt a leaning forward. And I mean, I'm very curious. Like, I mean, I feel that was what Tiger was sharing, but how do I really know that's what Tiger was sharing? Like, how do you really know, Annie, how do you really know you're actually communicating with the animal?
Oh, look, I get specific words from them, particularly from animals in spirit. I've worked out now through experience that they actually give me a code word, which makes no sense to me, makes no sense to the context of the conversation, but it means something significant for the humans. And the first time that happened was with a blind cat who I was talking to in spirit. So I've just got the photo of this cat, never met his mum. She just sent me the messages. And we were having a conversation, and partway through the conversation, he said to me, "Rumple teaser." Now, I listened to that word and thought, what is that? I'd never heard of it before. And I thought, what's he trying to tell me? And I thought, is he trying to tell me Rumpelstiltskin? But if he is, that doesn't make any sense with what we're talking about either. So I ended up convincing myself I was just hearing things, so I ignored it, continued our conversation, and he said it again very clearly. So I thought, okay, he is giving me a message. I'm just going to have to ask Mum about this, and hopefully she can understand what he's talking about. So I just sent her a messenger message, and I said, was he ever called Rumpelteaser? Something just made me think that's what the reference was for. And she didn't respond for a while. And then finally I got a message back saying, oh, yes, I'd forgotten all about that. And apparently when she rescued him, he was living with a dog called Rumpel. And he used to get in trouble for teasing the dog. So he got called Rumpelteaser. Couldn't even see the dog because he's blind. But how intelligent, since we're talking about animal intelligence, how intelligent of him to send me that word, because there's no way that word got into my head apart from him telling me. So it proved for Mum that I was definitely connected to her cat in spirit. And it then let me know that if I get these weird words that make no sense, not to ignore them, but to tell the human what's going on. And then I had a dog tell me treehouse. And I'm thinking, how can treehouse be a code word for a dog? I couldn't imagine the dog climbing up the steps to get into a treehouse. But his mum explained that was a property she used to take him to. And over the road is a whole series of nature walks that he walked on from when he was a puppy till just before he passed away, one of his favourite places to go to. So that was such an appropriate code word for him to use. So his mum knew that I was talking to him. So you just can't rationally explain what they tell me. That particular dog told me that names of animals that he was with in spirit. And his mum said, there's no way you can possibly know that. Like, all I've got is the picture of this dog and what he's telling me. So it's just bizarre, but it's just something that I'm used to now, and just having these confirmations. And then the parents will tell me afterwards why that word is significant. And it all makes sense. I had a cat who wanted to come back as a dog. and her code word was tomatoes, but I didn't realise that at the time, and she just said tomatoes. And I said, oh, can you explain that? She said, no, it's a test. And I thought, okay. And then I thought, well, I wonder whether she wants to eat tomatoes when she comes back as a dog. And she told me that she wants to come back as a terrier. So I Googled, is it safe for dogs to eat tomatoes? And apparently, yes, it is, as long as they're very ripe, very red, only a small quantity, and no leaves or stems. On this page is a picture of a terrier dog with a bowl of tomatoes. This is 2 minutes after her telling me that she wants to come back as a terrier. And I just thought, wow, okay. So I just sent Mum the link and I said, you won't believe this. Your cat said tomatoes. I looked it up. And she wants to come back as a terrier. Here's this picture of a terrier with a bowl of tomatoes. And Mum said, oh, Annie, tomatoes are my favourite thing. I eat them every day and the cat knows that. So tomatoes was the code word from the cat to Mum, so Mum knew who it was. And just the way the universe conspires to confirm that she's coming back as a terrier, and she has come back as a terrier. It's absolutely fascinating. But, I'm a very analytical, scientific-based person, and there's nothing that rationally explains how this gets into my head apart from the animals telling me. And so when I tell people I'm an animal communicator, like they're just kind of probably in a bit of shock thinking, is that really real, or skeptical? And especially when you say you talk to animals who are in spirit, which takes it one step further. But what they tell me and the parents confirm it, it's just how it is. So
I have to admit, I was in the beginning, I was kind of like going, okay, okay. But hearing you explain the examples and the different things, there is no way you can explain that away. And knowing also the fact that you have a scientific mind, I know how, I don't personally know because I'm not really scientific. I'm more of one of those people that if I've got something in front of me and I can't understand it, I'm going to ask for the English version. So you can tell how I feel about science. Most of the time I don't understand it, but I do know scientific people, they are extremely analytical. They are very evidence-based. They are very, it's like, it's got to be solid. There's got to be an exclamation for this and this and this. And just the fact that you are very scientific, yet you latch an anchor in this and have a full 110% belief of that, that alone also speaks volumes. Not only that, to add to that, the stories that you tell and the evidence that you have, which is actually evidence, is incredible.
And I got goosebumps as you were sharing. So I know there's some truth in that when there's goosebumps.
I'm getting goosebumps too. And I'm actually writing my third book at the moment, which is all about the soul journeys and reincarnation and some of the absolutely incredible stories, because they just do sound like so far-fetched and, into the future and all of that kind of thing. But it's just my daily reality. And so it's being able to talk with animals has totally changed my understanding of reality. So what I thought was real about, life and death isn't, because as I said, there is life after life. And the fact that our animals are so intelligent, that they've got these huge vocabularies, they understand what we're saying, and they can give us solutions for problems as well. They can give us spiritual guidance. They can help us with health issues. There's so much they can do to help us that a lot of people just aren't aware of, because they think, oh, it's a pet. But it's not. And that's why this program is so valuable, because it is revealing the truth about our animals.
Fascinating. Oh, it's been such a good conversation. We've got someone here saying, Annie, help my friend Carol Jeffs.
Oh, yes. I know who that is. Yep.
And it's amazing how well Tinky is going now. And she let Carol know about another cat of hers that had been reincarnated. His name is Moo. She's probably listening to this show too. Moo is listening.
Well, I know who that Facebook user is, so thank you for sharing that. But yes, I did have to have a conversation with Tinky, because she was very shy and retiring and likes spending nearly all of her time in a cupboard. But her sister, who was in spirit, was going to come back. And Tinky, she said she was going to come back as a ginger cat, and they've now recently welcomed Moo into the household, and Tinky is now out of her cupboard. and she's
Oh.
interacting with Moo. Mum's posted a lovely photo of the two of them sitting on a back of a sofa looking out the window, and it's just totally changed her engagement with life because she knows she's got this soul come back in this new body and recognises them. Yes, I knew it was you, Kate.
Hey, Denny.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So it's just incredible what a difference it makes for our animals when their sibling who's in spirit can come back again.
Beautiful.
Like, it's wonderful for us to have them back, but it's wonderful for our animals as well when they come back.
Yes. Wonderful to see you, Kate, too. And Kate's been doing the Global Good News Challenge, so congratulations, Kate. She's doing a great job with that as well, sharing gratitude and good news, and also a supporter of the Animal Action Day for Cats. She's donated a prize there. Got quite a few prizes for the raffle. We've got stalls coming on board. It's going to be an awesome day coming up October 8. It's been an absolutely brilliant show. It is coming up to 2 hours, another epic show here at Total Truth Show. So before we wrap up today, I'd love to hear from you, Annie. How can people work with you and connect with you, and how can they get a copy of your books?
Yes, okay. I might just do the books first if I can put them up here. So this is my first book, which is The Bridge to Animal Consciousness, and that's my gorgeous boy, Tierney, who's now my oldest boy living with me, and he's an absolute healer and he's a teacher. And I'm writing the sequel to this book now. So this is The Bridge to Animal Consciousness, and the sequel, which will be coming out this year, is called Crossing the Bridge to Animal Consciousness. And then my second book, Evolving Hearts and Souls, The Guide to Spiritual Awakening, I wrote because when I had my spiritual awakening, I didn't know I was having a spiritual awakening. I'd never read anything about it, so I had no idea what was happening. So I wanted to write something to help demystify the process for people so they don't think they're going crazy and they understand a bit more about what's actually happening, that there is more a purpose to being here than living and passing away. So for those of you who are watching in Australia, you can contact me and I can send you a copy of the book. And I also offer a free little message in there from your animal as a dedication if you'd like to do that from a photo reading. So you can contact me on email at chintuitive@bigpond.com. For people outside Australia, the books are available on Amazon as ebooks or the paperbacks. I'm also taking pre-orders for the new book as well, so you can email me. I'm on Facebook as Annie Bourke, and you can see my name on the screen, Annie Bourke, Bourke. My business name is Cosmic Heart Intuitive, so I've got a Facebook page called that. My website is www.cosmicheartintuitive.com.au, and I'm also on LinkedIn as Annie Bourke, and my business page is Cosmic Heart Intuitive. So you can contact me through email, through messages on social media, or through the website. So you can purchase the books. I also offer conversations with your animals, living or in spirit. And as I said, I'm now offering my mentorship program where I work with animal parents one-on-one with two of their animals, or they can use some of mine, to help master telepathic communication so you can talk to your own animals, living or in spirit. I do have a free Facebook group, a private group of animal parents, and I offer free masterclasses every month for animal parents so they can understand their animals on a deeper level. So again, if you want to find out information about the masterclasses, please contact me. The next one's Saturday, 23rd of September, 10 a.m. Australian time, which is 5, 6, 7 and 8 p.m. on the 23rd in various US time zones, PST, CST, MST and EST.
Got it. Okay, fantastic. And your email again was CHintuitive?
CHintuitive@bigpond.com.
No AU on that. No AU. Okay.
No.
And you've got your podcast as well, your podcasters on Spotify?
The podcast is called What Animals Tell Me, and that's available on most podcast platforms. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes. Okay. So we've popped a whole lot of links in there in the chat.
Yep,
if you're not
thank you for doing that.
Pleasure. So if you're not seeing that right now, wherever you're watching this from, they will be up there shortly. And we will come to your favourite quote soon, Annie, before we wrap up. But firstly, Ken, how can people connect with you?
Well, one of the best way to connect with me is through my Linktree, and there's actually just I'm only going to mention two very important links on my Linktree, and that's number one is to join my Facebook group. There's a link to join my private Facebook group, and this is a group where you'll see some of my deeper content as far as not only how to lose weight, but how to keep it off, just like I have for going on 6 years now, easily, sustainably. It's not magic. It's all about the approach and how you do it and doing it sustainably. I do not believe in diets. Never, 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 ever again shall your weight loss journey be about a diet with me. And then I also give you the tools to take with you for the rest of your life so that you can continue making sustainable changes, which then produces permanent results. I'm not about Band-Aids. So there is that. And then secondly, more importantly, book an appointment with me. On that calendar, on that, my Linktree is right at the top is my calendar link to book in an appointment with me, to connect with me. Even if you choose not to work with me, I still would love the opportunity to get to know you further, connect with you at a deeper level, and at least point you in the right direction. I promise I don't bite. Book that appointment. Don't be afraid to book that appointment. I'm not going to hard pressure sell you. I don't do that. I will go over my pricing with you, of course, but I'm not going to push you. So feel free to, reach out to me and make that connection. My Linktree for those who are listening via audio is www.linktr.ee/FatFighterKen.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ken. And we'll come to your favorite quote shortly. And for those who want to connect with me, you'll find me at linktree/Aldwyn. All my links are there, linktr.ee/Aldwyn, spelled ALDWYN. We do have the Animal Action Day for Cats coming up, fundraiser for grassroots cat charities like Wildcats and others. And we have amazing performers and speakers. We've got the ABBA Tribute Experience show. We've got Bobby Running Fox coming. We've got a whole lot of amazing performers. I'm going to pull up the whole schedule here and read it to you. 17th Annual Animal Action Event, all about awareness, appreciation, and respect for animals. And thank you to Alana Fitzgerald, who's been organising all the performers. So this is who we have. We have a Charlana duo. We have Alana Fitzgerald, Don Allen as well. It's going to be Bobby Running Fox and crew. So he is a awesome Cherokee Native American. Bobby Running Fox, very well known around the traps. And the ABBA Tribute Experience show is going to be awesome as well. So they're just some of our performers there. And we have speakers, including Annie. And Annie's going to be talking about rescuing the rescues, which will be a fantastic talk as well. And we'll have a few other people speaking from different cat charities as well. So look forward to a great day there at Mermaid Waters Hotel, October 8, daytime event. Stay tuned with the Animal Action Events Facebook page, which you'll find in my Linktree. Animal Action Events Facebook page. Also, September 19, I have an event online, free event called Launch Your Own Global TV Show. So for those who want to start their own show, who want to build your income, your impact, and your influence, then this is a great way to do it. We're going to have a weekend workshop on the Gold Coast on November 11-12 coming up for those who want to get a show out in a weekend. And we'll also got an 8-week online course as well. So you can book in on my calendar link. Just book in a call with me and we can check if this might be a fit for you, or if you have any other questions, it's a free connection and clarity call that you can book in on my Linktree as well. And the Global Good News Challenge, of course, every single month. Thank you, Kate, and to all the other Good News challenges out there. You get free marketing with this challenge, sharing gratitude and good news. You feel amazing doing it. So do the people who see your challenge. And we have prizes to give away. We share your challenges into several groups, and we add you to our private group of Good News Crusaders as well. And that's my promo there. And then, Annie, over to you. Thank you so much for being our guest today. It's been a fantastic show, and love to hear your favourite quote for the day, and if you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up.
Yep, thank you very much. It's been great fun chatting with both of you and hearing about your animals. My key messages to animal parents are just so that they understand that the animals do understand everything that you're saying, and how important it is just to tell them that you love them. They really love you hearing that, and that they are with you for a reason. My favourite animal quote is from Anthony Douglas Williams. When I look into the eyes of an animal, I do not see an animal. I see a living being. I see a friend. I feel a soul. I just really love that. And then my personal mantra is anything is possible, miracles happen, dreams come true.
Oh, I love it. Oh, beautiful, Annie. Absolutely love that. Thank you so much once again. And Ken, what's your favourite quote or motto that you'd like to share today?
You cannot hope for motivation for the day. You must be intentional about it. Start your day with intention.
Love that too. So important. Beautiful. Love that. And end your day acknowledging yourself. I would like to add to that as well, like, with gratitude and acknowledging yourself for what you've achieved, because particularly the high achievers out there, like myself, I know I can speak from experience, and like some other people here, I'm sure, that we can be very hard on ourselves, because there's always a million things to do in business and in life, and a million animals to save, and, all that stuff. And we can only do what we can do. So every little bit helps. And my favorite quote is from Margaret Mead today. And it's a small group of thoughtful people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. So hats off and thank you to all the beautiful people out there who are changing the world in some way. Sending you all lots of love. Thank you once again, Annie, our special guest today, Annie Bourke, chatting about the truth about animal intelligence, coming out with her third book shortly, and my amazing co-host, Ken. It's been awesome to share this time with you. Any final words before we wrap up today from either of you? No, good to go.
Just one last thing here that I will mention, and that's because it's written down on my little paper here. You get to start operating from a place of abundance, not lack. And that's you get to do that.
Yeah.
Each and every single day. Oftentimes I feel like we operate from a place of lack, always worrying, caught up in anxiety and everything. But now switch that, because you now, being in the here and now moment, can treat that moment as brand new and not operating off of what you're used to operating off of, but now operating off of an opportunity to treat that moment as brand new. So in that, you now get to operate from a place of abundance.
I love that. And I've heard also with to-do lists, if you just put a get before the to-do list, so you get to do, then that brings a lot more excitement to it too. So I love that, Ken. Thank you so much for sharing. And for those who want to do the Global Good News Challenge, all the details on how to participate are at the top of the Global Good News Challenge Facebook page. Okay, so it's got featured at the top. You can see all that there. And I just want to say too, thank you everyone who's joined us live or watching the replay. If you can just let us know what you thought of this show, any comments, questions, what you got out of it, let us know in the comments. Share the love, and remember to like our Total Truth Show page on Facebook as well if you haven't already. Sending you lots of love, blessings to you. Thank you so much once again for joining us, and we'll be back soon with episode 41 next up, coming up for Total Truth Show. Thank you so much. Bye for now.